Welcome back to another tactical fly fisher tutorial. This is the third video in the Flies of the Year series that I'm doing. So if you haven't seen the first two, I've got just a few flies that I've shot tutorials for that they've all been patterns that have made it into my confidence flies for the last year. I try not to film just a whole bunch of tutorials for our channel of, flies that I've just spun up the night before or anything like that. Most of the flies that I put up on the channel, they're flies that I've personally fished for some sort of length of time so that I, have a lot of confidence in them and feel like they might be of use to you. So all of these patterns in the Flies of the Year series fit in that bill. And this next one is the blue steel Perdigon. Yes, the blue steel of Zoolander fame. Okay, now that I've humiliated myself, let's talk more about the blue steel Perdigon. So the blue steel Perdigon, it's just another, mainly a color variation in the long line of tinsel-based Perdigons that I've done or that I've fished. And I was messing around with various tinsels and colors like I often do over the winter last year, and just happened to put some iridescent blue tinsel, Perdigon tinsel from Semperfli on to a Perdigon. Whipped up a couple of them along with a few other variations that night. Took them out fishing the next day, and this one kind of rose to the top of the variations that I had tied that previous night. Caught a lot more fish than just about anything else that day. I kept fishing it throughout the spring, and it worked really, really well all the way into just post runoff. I noticed that it wasn't quite as good for me in July and August and September, but then when I got back into lower light fishing sessions in October and beyond, it's fished really well again. This is also a pattern that was really good. We had both pink and blue Perdigons that worked quite well for us in Slovakia at the World Championships. So this is one of them that I fished during practice and the sessions that I ended up fishing in the championship as well. So if you spin it up, I'll bet it'll work for you, certainly at least fall through spring, but I'd love to hear some feedback from you guys going into summer to hear if it's continuing to work for you then as well. So give this blue steel Perdigon a try. Once again, it's only going to take us a few minutes. I also add another little tidbit on how to make your tinsel-bodied Perdigons a little more durable, something I've added to my own tying of this style of patterns over the last year. And then for those of you who might not be fly tiers, this is also a pattern that will be in the Foaling Mill catalog next year. So it's not available yet for 2024, but come January or February of 2025, we'll be adding this to our shop commercially, and you can get it from other Foaling Mill dealers then as well. So thanks again for watching. Let's get cracking, let's get tying, and we'll see you in just a minute. Okay, everybody, let's get started tying this blue steel Perdigon. We're first gonna just attach some 16-aught black Vivas thread right behind the bead. Make a few wraps and cut off that tag, and then just go to the back of the hook. Now I'm going to grab about 3 or 4 fibers of coq de leon. All right, that's going to be my tail. I'm just going to measure right about there, maybe around the length of the hook shank. Transfer into my left hand, put the thread in between my fingers, go around the bottom of the hook shank and go back up, and then apply some pressure and let that thread slip. That's my pinch wrap to lock that tail in place. Now you can see those fibers are right in line and not splayed out. Okay, next, I'm actually going to tie in some clear micro tubing, and you might think that's a weird choice for a Perdigon, but as I've messed around with Perdigons over the last couple of years, especially tinsel-bodied Perdigons that are nice and slick, the resin doesn't always bind to that tinsel very well. So this micro tubing, if you only do a couple, 3 wraps, maybe 3.5, 4 wraps, you can put it on the Perdigon. It's completely invisible. You won't see it under that resin, and it helps not only hold the tinsel in place in case the resin comes off, but it actually gives the resin something to bind to, a little ridge there, and it really has helped me make Perdigons that are more durable. Okay, so now I have some tinsel here. This is iridescent blue Semperfli Perdigon body. That's going to be our main body on this fly. Go ahead and go back up to the front just so we can keep an even base of thread here. Give it a couple turns and slide that tinsel underneath. Now you don't have to trim it off. Wrap that all the way to where you have that micro tubing tied in right at the base of the tail. Then just cover the body with some thread wraps to even out the base of it again in case you have some lumps. And while we don't necessarily have to have much of an intentional forward taper with this Perdigon, we don't want there to be unsightly lumps and bumps or even a reverse taper. Okay, now we're just going to wrap touching turns cover all that thread, but try not to build up any more body. Once you get to the bead, tie that off, and then I just come in and jab that tinsel out. Now we're going to wrap this micro tubing, go once, twice, give it a fair bit of stretch here, 3 times and a half. And it meets the bead. Tie that down. You'll want to get at least 3 good wraps with some tension before you let go of that, because that micro tubing under stretch there can pop out. All right, now we just need to whip finish, and we're going to add a little dark wing case. Whip finish, come in here with your scissors and just use one of the blades and jab it out. Get that thread nice and flush. Now we'll add a little black wing case with the UV Craft black resin. Make sure as you pull it out that you wipe off any excess resin on the inside of that bottle head. And then you can control how much you put on. Go ahead and put an initial little dab in there, hit it with the UV, and then come back and do some more, because if you're using a slotted bead like I am in this, then that resin can kind of fill that slot on the first application. There we go. Okay. And then that second application actually goes on top and ends up making the wing case. All right, I'm going to leave that light going so it's ready when I apply this clear resin. Same thing, wipe the shaft of the brush and the brush itself on the inside of the bottle so you don't get too much. And then kind of start at the back of the fly and stroke forward a couple times as you turn the vise around if you have a rotary vise. That way if you have a little too much resin, it'll collect at the front of the fly and continue the taper instead of making a rear taper. And then if you have little valleys and gaps, you can kind of just add as you go if you need to for 1 or 2 of them. Hit it with the UV light to set it, and then I've got maybe a little bit of a valley in the resin right there, so I'm going to hit it again and then tap the shaft to it, and there we go. That is your finished blue steel Perdigon. Thanks for watching this tutorial for the blue steel Perdigon. Hopefully you'll add it to your mix and let me know how it goes for you. You can give us that thumbs up on the video. We'd really appreciate that, and subscribe to the Tactical Fly Fisher channel. And just like with all of our tutorials, there is a link to a blog post below in the video description where I have listed all the materials that you need for this fly, and you can buy them directly from our site at tacticalflyfisher.com. We sure appreciate the support for those of you who do that. Thanks for watching. Happy tying and happy fishing, everybody. See you in the next one.